Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at cryptocurrency stocks. These are any stocks that are on the stock market that are linked to cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. This is going to include Bitcoin proxies such as MicroStrategy. It's also going to include some of the Bitcoin mining stocks as well. I'm also going to throw Tesla in there too, as they hold a fairly sizable Bitcoin position. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, keep on watching, smash the like, hit subscribe if not done so already, and we'll get straight into it. Just before I take a look at the charts, why invest in Bitcoin stocks or cryptocurrency stocks on the stock market? Why not just invest in Bitcoin? This is a very good question, and a lot of people ask it all the time. The main reason why and I think many others choose to invest in cryptocurrency related stocks as opposed to directly into cryptocurrencies is ease of access. I'm from the UK. In the UK, we have something called an ISA. We also have something called a self-invested personal pension, or a SIP. We also have something called a lifetime ISA. All of these products, they give me access to invest in stocks and shares. Right now, I can't invest in the ETFs in America. We don't have UK Bitcoin ETFs currently. So what I have to invest in if I want to get cryptocurrency exposure in these products is to invest in cryptocurrency related stocks, derivatives of Bitcoin. So things such as MicroStrategy is probably the best example. The company holds an enormous amount of Bitcoin, and it's really acting as a Bitcoin proxy on the stock market. Bitcoin goes up, MicroStrategy goes up. There's pretty much a one-for-one correlation going on. And in fact, it's actually a leveraged play, because what Michael Saylor is doing now, he is borrowing money, he is offering debt, he's offering these bonds or these convertible notes at very, very low interest rates to investors. He's then taking that money from the investors and he's buying Bitcoin and he's putting the Bitcoin on his balance sheet. So this is, I think, a key reason why we've seen MicroStrategy perform so well. Certainly, a lot of people are talking about MicroStrategy right now being a great investment. So let's jump in and take a look at some of the charts, shall we? And we're going to jump onto screen share. And I think it's probably only right after that introduction that we start with MicroStrategy. So as we can see, MicroStrategy here in front of us, we've got it on a weekly chart, and this run has been absolutely enormous, absolutely huge. You can see we are well above our previous cycle all-time highs, which came in at around about $134. And I remember being in this stock back then. And back then, this is before they went through the share split, which I don't know if this is showing here. This is okay. So it was back here in, when's this? This is around August of this year that MicroStrategy actually went through I believe it was a 10-to-1 split. So essentially, you're now getting 10 shares for every one share, and the price of those shares, or the value of those shares, is denominated at a factor of 10 less. So for example, this would have been $1,310 instead of $131 back then. And I mean, I remember last cycle, MicroStrategy, it was something new. I think people were a little bit unsure. This top came in well before the top in Bitcoin, right at the start of 2021. Obviously, Bitcoin went on to make new all-time highs towards the end of that year. And it just kind of I felt a little bit underwhelmed by the performance of MicroStrategy. Some of the mining stocks I was in were performing better. And I remember thinking, like, did I really want to take such a big position in MicroStrategy? Because I thought of MicroStrategy as being a complete Bitcoin proxy. There would be less risk in terms of things like inventory, and the miners with their mining equipment was going out of date all the time. Could they get the right hash rate? Could they get the right electricity cost? For me, MicroStrategy was a lot simpler to understand back then, and I actually took a pretty sizable position in it. And right now, after the growth we've seen here, I mean, I did buy some throughout 2022, towards the end of 2022, in the sort of towards the end of the bear market, when you could pick up MicroStrategy extremely low price. I mean, just looking at the run that this stock has seen, I mean, you're talking about $13 and got to move myself out of the way. Yeah, I mean, 3,000, 3,300%. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. It's absolutely crazy what MicroStrategy has done as a stock. So I can sort of forgive people for being a bit nervous in terms of buying this stock. I think personally, the time to get into MicroStrategy, if not in the bear market, was sort of around here when Bitcoin was spending its summer consolidating. We knew that MicroStrategy was a leverage play on Bitcoin. So if we just look at, obviously, Bitcoin's breakout, it's practically gone from around sort of 69 to 90, I think 5,000 at the time of speaking. You know, that's a solid move. That's a solid, what, about 40% gain, right? If you look at MicroStrategy in terms of its breakout, it's done 160%. It's done about a factor of 3 over the move from Bitcoin. So you're pretty much on a 3x leverage Bitcoin long position if you are in MicroStrategy over Bitcoin. And look, I think it's fantastic. I would not be surprised if we do see MicroStrategy run higher. I think, look, I think come early next year, obviously we know that Bitcoin tends to have its best quarter in quarter four. I think, you know, with Trump's coming into office in January time, I think potentially timing wise, MicroStrategy might go through a bit of consolidation either at the end of this year or early next year. Obviously, we saw the cycle top for MicroStrategy coming in January last year. So look, I think if you're in this trade, great. I don't necessarily see a need to sell today, but I am personally thinking we're on a weekly Tom DeMark 9 sequential. So that is an indicator. That's a warning basically telling you that we're likely to see exhaustion in the uptrend. We're also coming into big psychological resistance at $500. You've also got the 4.236 fib extension and the 4.618 fib extension up here. This is from previous cycle high to bear market low. So look, I think somewhere between $500 and $550 would make sense for MicroStrategy potentially to look to cool off. I mean, it's just been on a straight up tear over the last week. It's making moves of double-digit moves every single day. I mean, today it's gapped up again. We're currently on an 8% up move. It's like at some point, I think this stock probably cools off a bit. And I'm not saying it reverses or it rolls over. What I'm talking about is something like this, where we just see a red candle or two, maybe a week or two. But look, this could still continue to grind up. I think if Bitcoin consolidates, we can still see MicroStrategy continue to grind up. But at some point, I mean, this trajectory cannot just carry on forever. I think at some point it will exhaust. You've got people sat on massive unrealized gains right at the bottom of this chart here from obviously the end of the bear market, late 2022, early 2023, that at some point we'll be looking for levels or areas to outflow those. So it's difficult for me to recommend going out and buying MicroStrategy today. I would definitely keep it on your list. Like I say, I'm expecting some consolidation here. And if we just try and maybe take a bit of a look at potential buy-ins, I mean, if we sort of take the low from our consolidation in the summer to where we are here, then look, potentially you could say if we do put in a top at this level, I'm not saying we will. I personally think we'll run on a little bit higher, probably up to around about $500. But if you were to, then you can start to see some targets. I think let's just do that now. Let's just sort of put this at $500. Let's just hypothetically say that we might get a rejection here. at the big round number, then, potentially what could we see? We could see some sort of pullback. I've done that right. Yeah, I have. We could potentially see some sort of pullback. And I guess the first area I'll be targeting would be this 382, which is coming in just below 360. And obviously, this is an area where we had some consolidation. So we would have had some people that got out of their MicroStrategy here. Potentially, they've realized they've made a mistake getting out too soon and they want to get back into the market. You're going to get people that went long here that then want to come in and protect their positions and add more if it comes back down to where they got in. So, and at this point, you're going to have these moving averages starting to catch up to price. Probably this 20-day moving average is a good moving average to base an entry off. If we get there, we can see here, it provided a decent base. When we were uptrending here, it provided a decent base. So, of course, it depends what Bitcoin does. If Bitcoin consolidates, it's likely that MicroStrategy will do the same thing. We saw that in the summer. Obviously, Bitcoin's expanding, MicroStrategy is expanding. But you've really got to ask yourself, where does Bitcoin go from here? I mean, if Bitcoin goes to 120,000, 150,000, that's another, potentially sort of 30, 40%, even 50% move on Bitcoin. If it does that, could MicroStrategy do another 150% move? Do you know what I'm saying? Could it do a 90% move? Who knows? Could MicroStrategy actually get to $1,000 this cycle? I mean, if Bitcoin decides to blast up to 130, 150K over the next couple of months, then who's to say MicroStrategy won't keep on doing that and performing as a leveraged Bitcoin long play? So certainly, I think there's more to come. And like I say, I'd be cautious jumping in here. But of course, if we do get a decent retracement, like I say, I'll probably be looking for a retracement at least down to the 382 from the summer low up to the current high. And if that lined up with a moving average as well, I would have thought that would be a great area to get position. Obviously, there's not really too much else we can draw on here in terms of support. I mean, we could go from the top of the summer over to this top as well. And we could try and draw in something like that to kind of say potentially, we could respect a level there. But it's very hard to do. It's very hard to do. I mean, the market is going completely parabolic, and yeah, it's quite difficult to sort of decide retrace targets until that actually comes and we're actually able to get a Fibonacci retracement in there. For now, it's probably using these moving averages and using obviously the previous inefficiency from this breakout. So you'd be looking, at a minimum around about sort of 380, potentially sort of filling this candle, this breakout candle down to about 360. Okay. So that's MicroStrategy. I'm going to run through a number of mining stocks now, just because mining stocks performed very well in the last cycle. The first one I want to start with is BitFarms, and we can see that this cycle, not so hot so far. I mean, if we look towards the end of 2020, towards the end of that Bitcoin halving year, BitFarms really exploded, really took off last year, or sorry, last cycle. And so far this cycle, price has been very lackluster, which is literally still consolidating sideways. And I don't know if due to the popularity of MicroStrategy, potentially MicroStrategy is now sucking liquidity out of these miners because they feel that MicroStrategy is the better leveraged play on Bitcoin as opposed to these miners. I'm not completely sure, but quite disappointing so far. I think, look, if you're looking at BitFarms, really, you want to see a breakout. So, I mean, the price it looks like it's broken out of this sort of longer term trend line. So is that your breakout and retest? Potentially it is. We've rejected from the 200-week moving average though, so we really want to see BitFarms get above that 200-week moving average. We've also got the sort of lows from sort of the previous bull market, the sort of summer lows, which we seem to be finding some rejection at. So I'd really feel a lot more comfortable going into BitFarms when we reach new all-time highs, at least when we get above, I'd say, call it $3. And then we're sort of through this resistance cluster of this descending trend line with the horizontal from the previous cycle and also the 200-week MA. And at that point, I would have thought BitFarms would be able to get above these local highs here and sort of move up to the upside fairly quickly. I think a reasonable target for BitFarms would be coming up to sort of prior cycles or time highs, maybe a little bit further, maybe about $10. So still some good upside to be had. Obviously lagging at the moment. Bitdeer is quite a difficult one to chart, really. We don't have a massive amount of price history. However, what I can do here is I can throw on a Fibonacci retracement from sort of high to low, like so. And what we can then look for is levels above. So yeah, potentially if and when Bitdeer does break out of this consolidation range, we might be looking for a move to $22 as a first target. And then if we break through that around about $34, that would be a nice, almost a 3x from Bitdeer. So yeah, I mean, you can look at higher targets too, is going all the way up to around 50 to 55, which again would be around about a 5x. So potentially Bitdeer could get a move on as soon as it breaks out above $15. CIFR as well is another one that I hold. So CIFR has started with a fair bit of promise this year. We saw a lot of pumps, but a lot of these pumps are just getting sold into. We've never really gone back to the original IPO price. If we just put on a Fibonacci retracement from swing high to low, you can see that we've currently come back to the sort of 50% level. That is where we seem to be rejecting at for now. So I'd want to see a close above $8. If we get above $8, then potentially this could run on higher. And in terms of targets, initial target would be 24. And then moving on from that would be up at around about sort of $40, which again would be a decent return, more of a return that I'd be in line with or expecting, more in line with what these stocks have done previously and what I'd expect them to do in this cycle. Like I said, at the moment, a lot of these are underperforming. Cleanspark, which was a decent performer fairly early on this cycle, has also been struggling to perform. We're still well off the cycle highs. If we put on a trend line, oh, that's a horizontal. If we get a trend line loaded up and put that over price here, then obviously we can see what Cleanspark needs to do to make things a bit more bullish. And to be honest with you, I'd be looking for a breakout of this trend line to get bullish on Cleanspark. So if we just throw on similar thing, Fibonacci from cycle high to cycle low, then we can see right now similar thing to CIFR. Or was it CIFR that we came back to the 0.5? I think it was, yeah. So similar thing, we've come up to the 0.5 in the sort of early stage of the bull run, rejected there, and obviously come back down, been reaccumulated over the last month or two, and looks like for me, you know, this one's a little bit strong. It's back above its 200-week moving average. For me, it looks like Cleanspark will get back up to this $20. Obviously, when we break the $20 and break the 22.24 area, which is our 50% fib, if we start closing candles above these two resistances, then that's when I expect Cleanspark to really get going, and initial target would be up around $68. Coinbase. So Coinbase is one that's been getting a lot of attention lately. Again, it's not a mining stock. However, it hasn't quite performed as well as MicroStrategy has. And if we take a look here, we can see that we're running into a bit of resistance around the 786 Fibonacci retracement. Of course, Cleanspark is looking quite a bit stronger than some of the mining stocks because, of course, it's broken out from its descending trend line. It's got above its 50%. It's got above its 618. So I do think that Coinbase looks like it could have potential here to get back to prior cycle highs pretty quickly. Obviously, these were the IPO highs, and it was pretty much down ever since. But of course, Brian Armstrong is going to be meeting with Mr. Trump very soon, I am told. So potentially we've got favorable regulation now being applied in the USA, being put forward. And there's a lot of sort of pro-crypto, pro-Bitcoin people that are now starting to either get positions in Congress or in the running for positions in Congress. And I do think the whole sort of outlook for crypto, especially in America, is really starting to change. And Coinbase, of course, is at the forefront of that. So I'd expect Coinbase to really benefit from these legislative changes. And I can't see Coinbase not going to the new all-time highs soon. If you're looking for a place to get in, really, any retest of sort of this prior swing high would be a nice one. Maybe the Tom DeMark weekly 9 here turns into leads to a bit of a consolidation. And I think any entry really below $300, I don't think you're going to sort of be disappointed come the end of the bull market. I mean, if we look at targets, we're looking at a target of around about sort of 674 as an initial target once Coinbase breaks the new all-time highs. And look, I mean, even from this level, that's a 2x on price. I would have thought that is a fairly high conviction, high probability trade. So yeah, I mean, I think Coinbase looks like a decent entry. It's broken out this consolidation. It's back above. It's sort of all of its moving averages. We can probably draw this trend line to sort of hit here. So I mean, any retouch of this would be a great buying opportunity, but I don't think you'll get it. We're gonna sort of run through the rest quite quickly. So Hut 8 at cycle highs now, which is good. That's positive. That's better than some of the other charts we've seen. I know Hut 8 was lagging earlier on in the cycle, but certainly it has started to turn around. And if we just throw on a Fibonacci retracement, we can see that we actually held or rejected off the 0.23 Fib retracement. We've now managed to get above that and close above that. So I'd expect Hut 8 to probably push on to around about the 0.5 level as an initial target. And like I say, if the market goes higher, potentially Hut 8 can go higher, making its way back to its prior all-time highs. Obviously, it's relative strength to how it's done earlier on in the cycle, but this is by no means a strong chart. There are other mining stocks that, like I say, have touched their 0.5. Hut 8 hasn't. So yeah, I think in terms of targets for this one, you need to be a little bit more probably level-headed and realistic. I mean, looking at targets beyond all-time highs at the moment is probably a little bit too optimistic. So yes, Hut 8 probably not a bad one, but we have to see if that momentum will be sustained. Mara as well. So Mara not looking overly strong. I think we're going to have not hit the 0.5, and we haven't. We've only got back to the 0.382 here, which we saw a pretty nasty rejection off. So, I mean, Mara at the moment it's struggling to get above its 200-week moving average. We really need to see it start closing above that moving average, and then taking out its sort of cycle high around about this $33 level to then see Mara again with Hut 8. Probably you'd want to see this making its way back to its prior all-time high before getting too excited. We're going to cover two more. We're going to do Riot and Tesla. So Riot, it's not looking good for Riot, unfortunately. Let me just tidy up this chart a little bit, and then we can bang on a Fibonacci retracement on Riot. So similar to sort of Hut 8, it's only come back to its 0.236 Fib retracement. It's under its 200-week moving average. I mean, unfortunately, this chart is looking very weak. The only thing you could really say is it's been consolidating in a range for a long time. So potentially this is a reaccumulation range. And obviously if it does break this range, expect a fairly decent move up. potentially coming into this 0.5, I would say is the first sort of major target, maybe to the sort of 618 after that. But yeah, not looking good. Some of these mining stocks, it really feels like they're not going to go beyond their previous cycle all-time highs. So obviously this is true of Hut 8, Mara, and Riot in particular. And as for Tesla, so obviously Tesla, despite being, in some people's opinion, an electric car company, in others, it's an AI company. To us crypto investors, it's a company that holds Bitcoin, which we like. So we're going to go through it. Obviously, we can see that Tesla was consolidating, forming this huge wedge, uh, not quite symmetrical wedge, but this huge wedge pattern. And yeah, obviously got the breakout earlier on this year at the start of summer, came back down, bit of a sort of flush out, and then regained, came back, retested, and it's off to the races. So look, I think Tesla has a great narrative, one of the stronger stocks out there, certainly over the last 6 months. It's been catching up a lot of the rest of the market that has been pushing on, whereas Tesla had been struggling a bit. And if we just try and get this lined up, we can see what our levels are. Right now, we're rejecting off this 786 fib retracement. But look, I can see Tesla. I can see Tesla doing really well over the next few years. It's not going to move as quickly as some of these other stocks. Okay, it's definitely not going to move like MicroStrategy or even Coinbase will move over the next few months. But I think Tesla can do very good things from here. Obviously, the next target is going to be $400 and back towards this previous all-time high. And look, if those all-time highs break out, you've got the best part of the 50% move then up to $600. So that would be my target for Tesla. When does this happen? I mean, if things really go crazy this year, with obviously Donald Trump coming in, we all know that Elon Musk now has a pretty close relationship with the president-elect, then it could be that Tesla sort of continues to run off the back of that. And I do think Tesla, probably at some point in our lifetimes will become the most valuable company in the world. They've got everything. They've got, everything from the cars to the robo taxis to the AI robots. Obviously Tesla, the electricity, solar panels. It kind of like it's just it just encompasses so much, and I just think Tesla's probably going to do extremely well, whether they hold Bitcoin or not. But obviously, the fact they're holding Bitcoin makes all the better. We like to see it. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you very much for watching. If you're only interested in the stock market, then that's great. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do smash a like if you have found it useful, and I will keep on making these. If you're more involved in crypto and you're also looking to invest directly into cryptocurrencies, I've got plenty of videos on my channel around other cryptos, not only Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and Pepe, which I cover every single day without fail. I've also got videos on my top high conviction meme coin picks as well. Meme coins really are the crypto beta trade for this bull market. They've shown outperformance every single time Bitcoin cools off and bounces. They always recover the hardest. And that's where the multiples are. That's also where people are going to be telling their friends, hey, guess what just happened to me? I just made a load of money in crypto and it was on this. They're not going to be talking about their high FDV float, their high tech coins from a couple of years ago, like your XRPs and Cardanos. They're going to be talking about the meme coin that they just bought, that they got in when it was 100 million market cap, and now it's at 2 billion or the like. So this is where retail are going to be driven to, and that's why we are focusing as a channel quite heavily on meme coins this cycle. Didn't really cover them at all last cycle. This cycle, I definitely will be. So thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you that content appeals to you and you'd like to subscribe. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I will be back with another update on crypto stocks again, either next week or the week after. So look out for that one. Have a fantastic day, and I will talk to you again soon.